looking closely at human aggression.
Right. A really complex topic.
Yeah. And the sources define it quite specifically, don't they?
They do. It's behavior aimed at causing harm, physical or, psychological, to someone else.
And the key bits are the intent behind it.
Exactly. Intent, believing it will harm, and importantly, the target wants to avoid it.
So it's not just like bumping into someone by accident.
Precisely. Not accidental harm.
And it goes beyond just physical stuff, too.
Oh, yeah. The sources talk about verbal aggression, even passive aggression.
That subtle kind where you harm by not doing something or indirectly.
That's it. And they also distinguish between hostile aggression, just wanting to inflict pain out of anger,
right,
versus instrumental aggression,
where the harm is more like a tool to get something else.
Exactly. Maybe resources or status, that sort of thing.
Okay. So our mission here in this deep dive is really to explore all this based on your material, the definitions, the big theories on why it happens.
Mm-hmm. What triggers it specifically?
And what the sources suggest might, help reduce it. Let's jump into the why. The theories seem quite different.
They really are. Competing ideas. Some sources point towards biology, suggesting maybe it's innate.
Like a built-in instinct? For survival, maybe?
Yeah.
Or Freud's Thanatos?
That kind of idea, yeah. Something hardwired. But then you have other approaches.
Like the drive approaches.
Right. Which argue the opposite, really, that aggression isn't innate, but it's a drive that gets switched on by outside stuff.
Like being frustrated, blocked from a goal.
Exactly. The situation creates the drive.
And then there's social learning theory. That feels different again.
Totally.
Yeah.
This one suggests aggression is basically learned behavior.
Like anything else.
Pretty much. You learn it if you're rewarded for it, or, and this is key in the sources, by watching others.
Models, even in media.
Yeah, like violent TV shows or video games. The sources definitely touch on that potential link.
Okay, and what about excitation transfer theory? That sounds interesting.
Yeah. This one suggests arousal from one thing. Say, you just had a stressful argument.
Okay.
That leftover physiological buzz can carry over and make your reaction to something else later on much stronger.
So you might react more aggressively to something small just because you were already worked up.
That's the idea. The arousal transfers, intensifying the later response.
Wow. So the sources cover everything from biology to learning to just leftover energy.
Okay, what about specific triggers? What causes aggression, according to the material?
Well, frustration is a big one they mention, especially if you think the reason you're frustrated is unfair.
Illegitimate, yeah.
Exactly. And direct provocation, that's a really strong one.
Like insults or threats, things that damage your image.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful instigators, according to the sources.
And the media exposure connection you mentioned earlier.
Right. Consistent exposure to violent stuff is linked to aggressive behavior in the material.
How? Do they change how you think? Potentially, yeah. It might strengthen cognitive structures related to aggression, maybe leading to things like a hostile expectation biases.
Meaning you expect others to be hostile.
Kind of. You're maybe more likely to see ambiguous actions as hostile, and then you react aggressively yourself.
And what about just the situation, the environment? I think the sources mentioned the weapon effect.
Yes. Just seeing a weapon can apparently increase aggression in someone who's already angry.
Even if it's not used.
Yes, what the effect suggests. And other things, too, like being uncomfortably hot or loud noise.
So even basic discomfort can play a role.
It seems so, according to this material. Subtle external factors.
Okay, so with all these factors, internal states, learning, media, the environment, how do the sources suggest we might reduce aggression?
A lot of it seems to tie back to that social learning idea. Punishment is mentioned.
But with caveats, right?
Oh, definitely. It has to be like immediate, consistent, strong enough, and seen as justified. Otherwise, it might not work or could even backfire.
Trying to break that learned link?
Exactly. And the flip side is modeling.
Showing non-aggressive ways to handle things.
Right. If aggression can be learned by watching, so can non-aggression. Exposing people to pro-social models. People handling conflict calmly.
Providing alternatives. Makes sense.
It can help reduce sensitivity to those triggers we talked about.
Okay. So this deep dive through your sources gives us a pretty structured view. The what, the why, the triggers, and potential reducers of aggression.
Yeah, it maps out the territory based on the material provided.
And considering all these layers, the sources point to biology, frustration, learning, media, even just a hot room or seeing an object. It really makes you think, doesn't it?
It does. It leaves us with a pretty significant question to ponder.
Which is?
Well, Given all these influences, how much control do we actually have over our own aggressive impulses, and maybe over the aggression we see out there in the world?